Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night, wherever the hell you are. It's good to see you. Today, I came across a very interesting Twitter thread on my feed, and it was from someone who's not in my industry. And a friend of mine actually replied to it. That's why it came up. So, it was written by a female, and she actually makes some very interesting points in it about the struggles of being a young woman, which I know you guys will find an interesting topic. So, I figured we'll get cracking into it. Bin Chicken, Bonnaroo, the best on the streets and between the sheets. Thank you, Davina. Nathan Dunn, welcome to the chat. Good to see you, mate. Did I mention yesterday that I've been nominated for multiple awards? AVN Best Actor, AVN Best Supporting Actor, XBiz Best Sex Scene. Oh yes, and Flashbot Best Male Performer of the Year. Oh yes, indeedy. Well, let's get cracking, shall we? So this is the thread. This right here. This is the thread. By a young lady called Alex Kashuta. So she starts off by saying, one thing most men won't be able to understand is how overwhelming the transformation is from awkward pre-teen to being a young, pretty female. It's like being gifted a fortune at 15, but it's booby-trapped, and the instructions are written by a Cosmo intern who hates dad. CJ, Hanafi, Oscar, welcome. Ben Chicken? Bin Chicken. Supreme Leader Bin Chicken. Thank you, Oscar. Now, she actually makes an interesting point here. Yuta Man, welcome back. Good to see you. It is like being a young, look, especially being a young, beautiful woman, is like being gifted a fortune at 15. She actually is right there. Because here's the thing, right? Men have to create their value. Women just inherently have value. This is the way men and women are, right? If we're talking about the sexual marketplace, right? A young man has no value. Well, a boy, right? A boy has no value. Turns into we call him a man when he turns 18, but he still doesn't really have any value in his life or value to add to the world. Unless, hey, how are you? Good to see you. Welcome to the chat. Aria was on the show a few episodes ago. If you haven't seen that interview, go check it out. Aria is a very charming young lady, and we had a great time. Hannaford, yes. Well, they're not. Is there some elite panel of old porn stars that judge porn videos? They're not porn stars. They're typically editors, like industry journalists, sometimes directors, sometimes people within the organizations that host the award shows. So those are the people that judge the categories. And sometimes they actually let fan votes come in and determine who the winner is. So there you go. Anyway, back to this thread, because this is a pretty long thread and there's a lot to get through here. So she actually does make a really good point here, and that is that, yeah, so men's value has to be created, right? A young man doesn't really have any value. Like, okay, someone's gonna say some stupid shit like, oh, but Justin Bieber is a high value dude. Justin Bieber has value. Justin Bieber is like the fucking exception to the rule, okay? So, you know, like obviously some 16-year-old kid, or how old was Justin Bieber when he got famous? Like 13 or some stupid shit like that. Or like Macaulay Culkin. Okay, obviously that, like, they're earning millions of dollars and they're like prepubescent. Okay, that doesn't count as like the general rule, okay? Most men have to develop their value over years and years and decades, right? So we're talking about building wealth, right, in terms of resources, building a network in terms of friends, compatriots, business relationships, social relationships, right? Sort of finding their way and establishing their way in some kind of network or hierarchy. We're talking about physical value, as in building and imposing physical presence, being competent physically, being strong, being able to defend oneself and defend, your loved ones and your friends. These are all things that take time and take years to develop, right? That's why a dude who is in his 40s, right, or like mid to late 30s, 40s is typically like at his peak in his life, right? Maybe he's not at his peak physically in terms of like he doesn't sprint the fastest, he doesn't jump the highest, but he's got time. He's had time to develop his skills in most of these areas, right? It's a perfect amalgamation of like his wealth, his relationships, and his health, right? In his like 30s to 40s. However, with a woman, right? What do men value in women? Men value youth and beauty, right? And a woman is typically her most beautiful when she's like 18 to 22, around this range, right? And then as she ages, her beauty tends to deteriorate if she doesn't do anything about it. Right? If she doesn't stay fit, stay healthy, right? Eat well, exercise, do these kinds of things, then that tends to taper off. And kind of controversial thing is, and this is kind of what she alludes to in this entire thread, right? She kind of alludes to this. It's what's the word I'm looking for? It's a thing that people don't like to talk about very much, but being chaste is valued in women, right? For long-term compatibility, right? Throughout history, and even now, as much as our society tries to sort of socially engineer this preference out of men, the preference is still there when it comes to long-term partnerships, right? Most men, and obviously porn stars are going to be not a representation of most men. So let's start with that. But most men are going to prefer a woman who's had a low amount of sexual partners versus a woman who's had a higher amount of sexual partners, okay? The reason, for anyone who's curious as to why this is based around cuckoldry, right? If a woman has had little to no sexual partners, then she is less likely to cuck you as a guy, aka she's less likely to get pregnant by somebody else and have you raise the kid or look after the kid or commit resources to the kid, right? Versus if a woman's had a lot of sexual partners, has been a bit promiscuous, she's more likely to cheat on you. Right? This is not my opinion. This is like statistical fact. Unfortunately, as much as I would like it not to be the case, that is the case. Okay. So this is why like men have to build that value. Women have this value innately, right? Because they're the ones that can give birth. And then as she ages, the value dissipates because once she hits, like every year a woman ages, her eggs become, like the number of eggs she has decreases and she becomes less and less likely to conceive and give birth to a child. Okay. So these things all play a factor, right? So it's like being gifted a fortune at 15, but it's booby-trapped. I don't know why she says it's booby-trapped. But maybe we'll figure out why she would use that phrase. And the instructions are written by a Cosmo intern who hates her dad. That she's absolutely correct about, because women are given shit advice, really shitty advice, from like mainstream society, from like especially as teenage girls. The advice they get given from like Cosmo and all these stupid magazines is terrible. If for like long-term happiness or long-term like relationship stability, they're really given terrible fucking advice. And it's obvious that it's a pretty funny quip there. Like most most of them would probably hate their dad and are writing about that kind of shit. They get a job at Cosmo giving like writing teen advice columns. Let's just say I doubt very much that the people who are writing teen advice columns at Cosmo are like have been happily married for 40 years. I doubt that very much. Okay. King Leonidas, you're not late. You well, read this tweet and then you're up to scratch, all right? Basically. What did we get up to? Luke Darren finally caught one of these live. Welcome, Bin Chicken. Welcome. Oh my god. Real Dara Memes, welcome to the chat. It's good to see you. I just followed you the other day and you are the funniest goddamn meme account I've ever seen. Justin Bieber's existence is less than Charles Dara's ballsack. Abso-fucking-lutely. Charles Dara has more testosterone in his left pinky than Justin Bieber has in his entire body. If you haven't seen my interview with Charles Dara, I highly recommend you check that out. It is a fantastic interview. Me and him touched on a bunch of stuff. I really see eye to eye with Charles. He's a breath of fresh air in Los Angeles. I'll tell you that right now. Anyway, Ryan R, welcome to the chat. Bin Chickens all around. Marlon says, congrats on Avian Awards for nominating you the best actor and best supporting actor. Thank you very much, Marlon. Thank you very much. Yes, Caesar says, just saw your Instagram story. Congrats on the nominations. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Udaman says, this is why I don't date women with kids. It narrows my dating pool at my age, but I don't want to raise another man's kids. And nor should you. You shouldn't have to raise another man's kids. You shouldn't feel pressured to raise another man's kid. You shouldn't. Society tries to pressure this onto men right now. It's like, man up and be a cuck. Like come on, really? And I'm not trying to shit on single mothers here or single fathers, because there are single fathers out there too. I'm not trying to shit on them. Just saying, like, why should a man? There's no reason why a man should be raising another man's kids. And if you want to go even further, there's no reason men should be paying, in terms of society, men's taxes shouldn't be paying for child support for absent fathers. That's an entirely different argument, though. Anyway, I'm digressing. Oh, you were the one that said Charles could slap you into pre-COVID days. Excellent. And Ryan says the Charles Dare interview was one of the best. Thank you very much. Luke, welcome back. Good to see you again, Luke. This is a good time. 8:30 p.m. In LA time seems to be a good time. I get all my friends in the chat. This is great. You can absolutely, you have my consent, 100%, Luke, to start a Sterling Memes account. I will provide you with any and all photographic stills from my porn scenes that you need to make me a meme account. Go right ahead, sir. Simpatico, welcome back from Melbourne. Indeed. Okay. Now, so this is the first bit. So I do fundamentally agree with this. But here's the cool thing she mentions here, right? The awkward transformation from preteen to being a young, pretty female. I want to show you really quickly. Show you something else. This is a book. I know I recommend it. It's a bit weird. I like my porn star like YouTube channel. I'm recommending books all the goddamn time. It's because I read. Well, I don't actually read. I listen to them because I absorb them better that way, and I'm a slow reader. But you should too. So this. Let's zoom in a bit here. Did that work? All right, can you see that? Yes, excellent, cool. You can see that. So this is a book that I read years and years ago. Oops, going to zoom out again. Called The Female Brain. I read this probably when I was in my early to mid 20s. I somehow stumbled across this book, and it is amazing at describing the chemical changes that go through a woman's brain through all the various phases of her life. And luckily enough, the graph or the diagram, well, not really diagram, like the table that explains it is actually in the free parts that you can see when you click on it on Amazon. So we can show you right now. Cheeky little thing I am. So, as we scroll through here, it's a great book. I highly recommend people check it out. So it starts off with this little diagram showing off the different parts of the brain, like the prefrontal cortex, hypothalamus, etc. That's not important, right, for what I'm talking about. Then it talks about the different neural hormones that play important roles in a woman's brain: cortisol, vasopressin, DHEA, androsterone, allopregnanolone. Okay. It's a very interesting... let's zoom in here so you guys can see. Can you read that? Let's see if you can read that. Yeah. Hormones can determine what the brain is interested in doing. That's a very, very key thing there. They help guide nurturing, social, sexual, and aggressive behaviors. They can affect being talkative, being flirtatious, giving or attending parties, writing thank you notes, planning children's playdates, cuddling, grooming, worrying about hurting the feelings of others, being competitive, masturbating, and initiating sex. Hormones determine all kinds of behavior like this. Now, this is the golden part. Like, this book is worth buying just for this this table here. So it talks about... Let's see if I need to zoom in even more. Let's make it a little bit easier for you guys to read. There we go. So it goes through the different phases of a woman's life, right? So when they're literally in the fetal, like in the womb, girlhood, puberty, sexual maturity, pregnancy, breastfeeding, child rearing, perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. These are the phases of a woman's life, right? And it talks about... Let's just go through this table, because this is really, really good stuff here. And it helps... this sort of helps explain, at least the first 3 or 4 phases here, really help explain this kind of confusion and emotional roller coaster that the girl is talking about in her tweet. So, in the fetal position, in the fetal life phase, what's the major hormone change? The brain growth and development left unperturbed by the high testosterone that makes a male brain. So what actually happens? She actually mentions what happens in the womb when it's a boy. In the womb is the male brain gets blasted with testosterone, and it completely changes the brain, like the wiring in the brain, compared to a woman or a female, like a girl. Because we all start off as girls, and then boys' brains get smashed with a bunch of testosterone, and then a whole bunch of other things change. What females have that males don't: brain cells are XX, which means more genes for faster brain development and female-specific circuits. Okay, then we move into girlhood. Can we still read this? Is it close enough? Excellent. Estrogen is secreted in massive amounts from age 1 to 24 months. Then the juvenile pause turns off hormones. So high estrogen for up to 2 years after the birth. Then she hits puberty. You get estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone increase and begin to cycle monthly. AKA, this is the period, right? More estrogen and less testosterone. Girls' brains develop 2 years earlier than boys. Side note here, this is why like the school system is terrible. One of the reasons why the school system is designed terribly, it's basically designed for girls, and it's not really designed for little boys, because they progress at a different time, and boys need to move and are far more like physically active. They need to be physically active. We treat in the school system, we tend to treat boys like dysfunctional girls, which they just need different things. Anyway, then they move on to sexual maturity. Okay, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone change every day of the month. So you start to get an idea of what. Okay, like guys, let's just remove this for a second. Guys talk about like women being so emotional and unpredictable and like being happy one minute and sad the next. This is why, guys, because they're literally on this hormonal roller coaster that's changing day by day depending upon their cycle. So this is like, it's not like it's their biology. This is why this happens to them. Let's continue. Let's get return that to the stream. Boom. Sexual maturity. Single woman. Estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone change every day. More focused on relationships, finding a lifelong mate, and choosing a career or job compatibility with raising a family. Then we get pregnancy. Huge increase in progesterone and estrogen, focusing more on nesting, how the family will be provided for, less on career and competition. What a surprise. And then you get to breastfeeding. And then you get to child rearing, less interest in sex, more about kids, perimenopause, menopause, and etc. And postmenopause. Now, the things that are of interest here is this sort of these three here. Like for this tweet, this girl's mentioned like girlhood, puberty, and then sexual maturity. And you can begin to see how much things are changing. Let's stop showing that for a second. And we'll go back to this tweet. So that's a really obviously the book goes into far more detail than just that. That's a really, really tiny encapsulation of the changes and the details of what's happening. But it's a really good book. I highly recommend you guys read it. So, hey, nice profile pic, all right? It's a nice new profile pic. I like it. Bin chickens all the way, by the way. Here we go. Project Alethea. Truth. I work at a school. We treat boys like dysfunctional girls. There you go. Let's continue along her tweet thread here and see what other insights she's gleaned here. 2. It's immense power paired with immense danger, all arriving almost overnight. While most guys are devising complex strategies on how to convince these girls to give up the goods, the task of managing the goods is proportionately complex both psychologically and morally. All right, here's where I'm really starting to disagree with her. Okay, so the first bit I do agree, right? It's immense power. There is like beauty shifts kingdoms. Like there is nothing in this world, apart from maybe nuclear power, that is more powerful than beauty itself. And the reason you know this is because wars were fought over women. Like kingdoms were toppled and countries were invaded for women, for literally for beauty and youth and access to women. Right? I mean, look at the world we're in now, right? Look at the world we live in today. Like, how much power do women wield over men with their sexuality? Look at the OnlyFans phenomenon. Look at pornography. My entire industry is based on it. What, $6 billion a year industry? The advertising industry, up until very recently, the phrase sex sells was very relatable to everybody. You'd look at most things, if you wanted to sell something, put a beautiful woman in front of it. And that still applies today to YouTube, Instagram, maybe Twitter to a lesser degree, because Twitter's more about ideas. But Instagram, look at any Instagram or YouTube. If you want a channel to grow, you could, like, easy experiment. You take any topic, any mundane topic, Bitcoin. Not that Bitcoin's mundane right now, it's skyrocketing. But let's say any sort of logical topic, cryptocurrency, banking, property investment, law, whatever you want, some really dry topic. You have a guy's YouTube channel, you have a man explaining it in detail on YouTube, and you have a girl, a beautiful young woman explaining it on YouTube. The woman's channel will grow exponentially faster than the dude's one because people value beauty. It's as simple as that. So, she's right in saying it is immense power. Right? However, the most powerful men in the world are ones who are able to either command attention from said beauty or are impervious to beauty's power. And that's how you get high value dudes. And I'm not referring to gay men there, obviously. Because even gay dudes kind of admire beauty, right? Not in the same way as straight dudes do, obviously. So, it's immense power paired with immense danger, all arriving almost instantly. So the immense danger part is the fact that the thing that is attracted to a young woman is a man who is bigger, stronger, more aggressive than her. So it's a weird paradox, right? Imagine being a young woman, right? You're attracted to something that could kill you quite easily if it wanted to, right? That's the reality. I'm not saying dudes are gonna do that, nor am I saying dudes should actually, because there's some idiots out there, I'm sure, that will watch this channel and interpret everything I say the wrong way around. So that's the reality of it, right? Like, as soon as a woman kind of matures and hits like post-puberty, she's now going from being a girl to being a woman. She's drawing the attention of men, right? And obviously, there are some men out there who are the kinds of guys who would sexually assault somebody. So there is an element of danger there, yes. This is where having men to protect women, that's the whole point. Like, that's the whole point of men protecting women, is to stop them from getting, sexually assaulted and raped all the time. As I'm sure was common practice back in the day. During wars and intertribal warfare and things like this. But anyway, I'm digressing from the point. Here is where I'm disagreeing with her. She says, while most guys are devising complex strategies on how to convince these girls to give up the goods, most guys are not deriving complex strategies. Most guys are bumbling around with no fucking clue what they're doing. That is most guys. The small percentage of men who figure this shit out early on in their life, or who are older and have figured this shit out, maybe they have some strategy when it comes to seducing a woman. But the vast majority of men have no fucking clue. And they're literally doing what Disney tells them to do, which is buy her flowers, leave her notes in her locker, be sweet, be romantic, and obviously this repulses her. So, while most men are developing conflict strategies on how to convince these girls to give up the goods, the task of managing the goods is proportionately complex, and both psychologically and morally. How is it complex to not have sex? There's nothing complex about not having sex. Now, is it tempting? Yes. Obviously, as a randy teenager, sex is very tempting. So I can understand why she's bringing up psychologically. But the moral conundrum? Look, the only reason it's a moral conundrum is because we're lied to. Most mainstream media is lying to us all the goddamn time. Look, I don't really like. I'm not the kind of guy who conflates morality with sexuality. I would, however, conflate like value with promiscuity, purely from the basis of like, okay, well, what is a high value woman to most men in terms of a long-term partner situation? And it's going to be chaste, being more chaste than promiscuous. Is that a moral thing? No. People, like, all the girls I work with are like, well, not all of them. The vast majority of the girls I work with are absolute sweethearts. They are not immoral in any way, shape, or form. They would give you the shirt off their back. They donate to the homeless. They give to charities. Like, there's nothing immoral about what they do, about them as a person. So I don't really, I never conflate morality with sexuality. So I think that is that's an age-old kind of argument. That's like a biblical, a religious argument, saying it is immoral to have, sex before marriage and these kind of things. Now, did they have a point? Yes, I believe they did, in terms of like with biblical scriptures and things. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that a bit later on. But I don't conflate I personally do not conflate sexuality with morality, or sexual behavior with morality as it is, like, per se. Does it have are there ramifications, and is there some crossover? Sure. But if we address that, we address that. in the third part here. She says, in the past, we had fairly totalitarian and yes, ham-fisted mechanisms to protect both women and society from this cosmic event. That event being women maturing. But they were there for a reason. What do you think the reason is here, young lady? Now, liberated from the constraints of tradition, these girls and society collide unprepared for each other. I don't think there's really a collide there. However, women are absolutely liberated from the constraints of tradition. 100%. They are well, you could call it liberation, or you could call it misguided. Because what is like what does the Western world tell women right now? It tells women, be promiscuous, don't do anything for the express pleasure of a man, ever. It tells them to pursue a career over family. It tells them that there is no over the last like 70 years, as we've gotten, use her phrase here, more liberated. Now, what is she talking about when she's talking about liberation here? She's talking about, realistically, she's talking about, if we break it down, she's talking about women being free to sleep around. Okay. I obviously don't have a problem with that because of the industry I am in. However, I'm not so oblivious to its ramifications that I don't see them. Now, the first part here, in the past, we had fairly totalitarian and ham-fisted mechanisms to protect both women and society from women coming of age. A totalitarian and ham-fisted. Look, I get it. Like, there's this really strong specifically, like, mostly anti-Christian sentiment in the Western world, in particular, kind of infused with feminism and with women's liberation movement. All this stuff is sort of tied together with like this hatred of Christianity. And I see it a lot in my industry. I see a lot of people in my industry who've come from... Ooh, am I dropping frames? That's no good. I see a lot of people in my industry who've come from very like strict religious households and have rebelled against that, and then have thus been promiscuous, have decided to explore their sexuality more, and have ended up in this industry. So I see that a lot. I was not raised religious, so I don't have I don't know what that upbringing is like. However, like, so there's a reason why all these sort of old monotheistic religions all talk about like preserving, being chaste, preserving chastity, partnering down with somebody for a long term and having and raising kids, right? It led us to the society we're in, right? Like, it led us to the 20th century. We went from being like tribalistic and like warring most of the time to like making it to the moon. Like, that only really stopped like the whole like we only stopped pedestalizing the family unit and like chastity around about the same time as like feminism kicked in. So what are we talking here? Like 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s-ish? Somewhere around there? I don't know my dates exactly. But that's when we stopped kind of pedestalizing the family unit, right? Or like upholding it as a moral virtue, and along with chastity as well, right? And well, look, where are we at now? You know, things have started to slow down. Progress wise, we've kind of slowed down a little bit, right? We thought we'd have flying cars, and instead we have social media. Anyway, let's continue. But to touch on her point here, I would say, like, yes, you can look at this stuff as being totalitarian, like religious, say like strict religious rules, right? However, they're there for a purpose. They're there to sort of. I mean, this is not a religious guy. Maybe I should have had my friend Tom Umar Hunter on this show too to give his opinion on it. Recent convert to Islam. They're there to curb, basically to curb like the worst parts of male and female sexual nature. They're there to sort of keep that in check. And this was figured out hundreds of thousands of years ago. And it worked. And then we sort of undid it all. Now, is that good or bad? I don't know. I'm just explaining what happened. Let's move along. Part 4. The traps are many. From the presence of an inevitable percentage of predators, I mentioned that before, commercialized sexuality as a progressive positive. That's what I was touching on when I said, you know, our society tells women to be promiscuous, forsake, you know, family and the family unit. And she continues, or simply facing the world-warping moral hazard of being given the keys to the kingdom at puberty. This is a hard problem. How is that a moral hazard? You know? Look, I fundamentally believe that there's a couple of things here. I fundamentally believe that women are being given shitty advice for a very long time, and that they're not very good at making their own long-term relationship choices because of a thing called hypergamy, especially in the day and age we live in now, right? That's why, like, this is why things like arranged marriages existed for in a lot of societies. It's because and my friend, go right back to my, I think it was my second ever episode of Men Are Talking. I had my good friend Tom Umar Hunter on the show, and he mentioned this. He said, who is going to know more? Who's going to be a better judge of a man's character? A, like, 18-year-old girl who's highly emotional and going through puberty, or her 40-ish-year-old father who's been dealing with men his whole life in business, in sports, whatever, socially? Which of these two is going to be a better judge of a man's character for, like, a long-term partnership? We sort of get, and there's a point there. There's a really valid point there. Now, that throws out the window, of course, the idea of, like, courtship and love and connection with a partner. Okay, I will. Absolutely, that is true. It throws all that out the window. So then what? You know, there's some validity in both of these points of view. I'm not saying I know the answer. I'm just, commenting on the situation we're in. Part 5. Currently, we have no ideas what to do with young female sexuality, because the idea that there is even something to do is anathema to liberalism. Yeah, the idea that the religious idea that it needs to be curbed and contained and protected, right? They need to protect the goods, as she described earlier on. She continues, but that doesn't make nature shrug and go away. Absolutely correct, young lady. Just denying nature doesn't, like, what's the Ayn Rand quote? You can deny reality all you like, but you can't avoid the consequences of denying reality. And unfortunately, that is the conundrum that a lot of women are going to be facing in my lifetime. The sort of reality that, oh shit, I waited till I was in my mid-30s to even consider having a long-term partner, settling down and having kids, and now it is too late. Now I cannot bear children, and I am very sad and lonely now. And I have a lot of sympathy for any woman that ends up in that position, because they've been fucking lied to their whole life. They've been lied to by feminism. They've been lied to by the media, and men haven't opened their fucking mouths and corrected it, because men are getting laid. So what do they fucking care? Like, feminism has been dudes complain about feminism all the time, but like, feminism was a pretty big win for it was more of a win for guys than it was for women, because dudes got all this like free like commitmentless sex out of it, whereas women got fucked over because they got told have a career and forget about raising a family, and then they hit 35 and they're like, oh shit, I kind of wanted kids, you know. Not everyone's going to agree with me on this. There's one live stream that's going to get me a lot of dislikes and bad comments. It's probably going to be this one. Anyway, so while I'm at it, hit the like button and help my channel stay alive. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. Scrolling down, she says, young women and their civilization encompassing force field, that's a good way of putting it, are one of the rawest illustrations of nature's supremacy beyond culture dominating it. Like I said before, you can't deny reality. Well, you can try and deny reality, but it's going to bite you in the ass either way. If we continue to play blind to these forces, to what they mean to women, men, and our society, the game will not last. And that's kind of what everyone's coming to the conclusion of right now, especially people in the sphere I've found myself in. It's like, how much longer can this like go on? You know? Speaking of my good friend Tommy My Hunter, he actually makes an appearance in this thread somewhere. He's the reason I saw it. Where is his damn comment? Is he somewhere? Here we go. Here's my buddy Tom's comment at the very end here. He says, religion solved this a very long time ago. I don't know why we're trying to change it now. Well, we're not trying to change it now. We've been trying to change it for the last, 70 years. But he has a point. Like, all these things that she's sort of complaining about, you know, they come of age and they're beautiful and they have this tremendous power and they don't really know how to handle it. Well, religion said, contain it, like keep your legs crossed so that you can, you know, live a fulfilling life, you know, a life of purpose, a life of fulfillment with a family. Be happy. That was religion's prescription for this kind of dilemma. It was trying to curb the worst aspects of male and female sexual nature. Men's tendency to be rampantly promiscuous and women's tendency to be hypergamous. So there we go. Let's catch up on the chat here. So apparently I was dropping frames at some point. Luke, but the gays are so powerful. so powerful. I miss you, Luke. I miss you, man. What did we get to? Cool. You demand, is it just me or are young women developing much earlier than they used to? It's an interesting point. I think there is an argument to be made that there is that not just young women but young boys are also getting exposed to hormones. Well, man, I just finished reading a whole book on it, estrogeneration. Okay, so here's I'm glad you mentioned this. So They probably are developing. Actually, yes, yeah. You explained. There's an entire chapter on this in the book. What am I talking about? Yes, they are developing allonia, and here's why: is because so the birth control pill, right? The estrogen compound estrogen-like compound in the birth control pill, it doesn't get filtered out in our water supply. So when a woman takes the pill, she pees, that gets into the water supply. It goes through a filtration process. That filtration process for most municipal water supplies, and even for like reservoirs and lakes where fish are and where people fish and go hunting and whatever, these water supplies have this estradiol, this estrogen-like compound in it. And it doesn't get filtered out. The filtration system we use for municipal water supplies is more about bacteria and viruses and things than it is about, hormones. So these are prevalent in our drinking water, our tap water, our shower water. And so we're all getting bombarded with this on a daily basis. The water has been tested. This is not some tinfoil hat shit I'm saying here. Read the book, Escalation by J. Campbell. 100%, we're being bombarded with these estrogen compounds. So what does it mean? It means that young women are actually going into puberty far earlier than they should be. Far, far earlier. Yeah. So your observation is correct, men. Yeah, exactly, Devin. Yeah, some scientists have observed girls going into puberty at age 9. Dear Lord. Yeah, so it's not really hormones in the food, not necessarily hormones in the food, it's hormones in the water supply. And I'm not, again, look, if you don't believe me, just read the book. You should be reading this book anyway, it's amazing. Escalation by J. Campbell, you should absolutely read this book. It will blow your mind and probably make you a little depressed in the same time. But he prescribes some things you can do to prevent, to help mitigate your exposure. And I have taken all of them, and I've conveniently packed them into my suitcase to take them with me on my travels. So I will do an entire episode on how to negate the effects of this stuff. And if I can do it whilst traveling with a suitcase, then you can definitely do it at home. So I think that'll be a good topic for a video. Interesting thought here. Power corrupts absolutely. Beauty equals power, therefore beauty corrupts absolutely. Interesting take. Bang energy drink, add a hot woman and you sell it straight away. Exactly. Yeah, estrogen can cause breast cancer, so it doesn't instantly equal more feminine women. Yeah. Here we go, yeah. This was talking about my comment earlier where guys have no idea what they're doing. Joshua says, hey, Sterling and brothers, just watched the Charles Dare interview. It was a classic. Charles looks like he was ripped straight out of a Call of Duty game. That's a pretty accurate description of how Charles Dare's body looks. The all-American man. You could call him that. Yeah, here we go. People confuse morality with value when it comes to this topic. This is my take on it. Problematic. Yeah. Like, I don't conflate sexuality with morality. Because here's the thing, right? Like, I could be, let's say me and my wife were virgins until marriage, and then I was in a Catholic, I lived a Catholic life, right? Where I didn't wear condoms, every sperm is sacred, every time we had sex was intended to procreate. But say, for example, I got really into BDSM and we got all kinds of kinky, dirty sex. Everything you twisted under the sun you could possibly imagine. But we're still in a monogamous relationship. Is that immoral? I don't think it is. So, if it's not immoral in the context of a monogamous relationship, is vanilla sex immoral in the context of being promiscuous? You know? There's nothing different that porn women are doing that the average woman, except it's on camera, getting paid. Well, yeah, right now, yeah, there's a lot of sex going on. A lot of sex. Davina says virginity isn't as valuable as it used to be. I would disagree. I'd say virginity isn't valued like it used to be. It is still valuable, but only in women. Virginity isn't valuable in a man. Virginity is valuable in a woman. For the reasons I mentioned before, like knowledge, certainty of paternity for a man. That is the primary reason. Certainty, actually, there's a couple of things here. Certainty of paternity for a man, and loyalty. Here's the thing that, like, somebody asked me to do an entire episode on, like, what makes a high value woman, and I will do an episode on that, probably with my friend Tom, because this would be a really good topic for us to go back and forth on. But one of the things that men really value in a woman is loyalty. And when a woman is, the more, who described it this way? I think Andrew Tate actually described it this way. He said, when a woman has had lots of sexual partners, she isn't as loyal. And the reason is, if there's no stigma or punishment or like influence against being promiscuous, then if there's a tiff in the relationship, if there's some conflict in the relationship with her and her partner, then jumping on another dick isn't a big deal, and then she's happy to discard the relationship to just jump on another dick. If there is some pressure against being promiscuous, then she's more likely to stick around and make it work, because every relationship has conflicts. That's inevitable, right? So the loyalty aspect of a woman is very, very valuable to a man, and that very much tends to correlate with promiscuity or lack thereof. Yeah. And obviously, like, so I know that counter argument is going to come up, about, like, say porn, couples in porn, right, where it's like, oh, we've been together for a long time and we're happily married or whatever, and I'm loyal to him. I just fuck other people for work, or we swing, and and we both fuck other people. Okay, cool. That doesn't work for most people. That's the reality. For society as a whole, it's not a system. I try to convince me otherwise, but for society as a whole, that is not a very sustainable model for relationships. People get jealous far too easily. Both men and women get jealous far too easily. Yeah. The last unicorn. So apparently I was dropping frames. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, you're talking about the idea of a chastity belt where the father had the key to the chastity belt. Yeah, I don't know much about the history of chastity belts and if they were even actually a thing. And who had the key. Marlon says, in short, sexuality and its freedom cannot be cross-referenced with moral standards. They are held to different standards and values. I do think there can be some overlap. Don't get me wrong, but I don't personally like strictly conflate, promiscuity with morality, because I know so many kind-hearted people and kind-hearted women in particular who are lovely. They're like, they have daughters that they have kids that they love, and they do everything for them. They take care of them. Like I said, they're done it to charity, and they mean well upon others. They're not evil people. They're not amoral people. They just have a lot of sex. So there you go. Yeah, right. We have magazines called Shameless and Jezebel. That should tell you everything you need to know. Interesting point here by Dan SPX. Cultures encapsulated the moral codes and behaviors into their religions. Yeah, because the culture came first, right? Before the religion. So, yes, women can monetize their beauty and sexuality like never before, thanks to various social media platforms. And this is part of this goes back to Davina saying, Power corrupts, right? I mean, why wouldn't you? If you were a young woman, a beautiful young woman, and it was easy to get lots of attention through social media, and you could monetize that, you take photos of your naked body and make money off it. Why? And there's no, or at least you're not told that there are any negative ramifications for doing so. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? Right? You're not thinking about anything long term as a young woman. Right? You're not thinking 20 years ahead. You're not thinking about having a kid, a wife. You're not thinking about having a husband and kids at that point. Problematic says, doesn't this come down to the whole key and lock analogy and not morality? What is the key and lock analogy? I'm not familiar with it. Could you perhaps explain? The most successful religions tend to have good moral codes. Hanafi Din says, in the end, the Muslim way is the correct way when wanting a wife/family. They figured it out thousands of years ago. There is a point to be made there. As I'm learning more and more about Islam from my friend Tom, who converted to it this year, I'm learning more and more about this sort of stuff. Basically, like, keeping the women under lock and key seems to work. Seems to work for like for sustainable marriages. In economics, moral hazards occur when an entity has an incentive to increase its exposure to risk because it does not bear the full cost of that risk. That's a good explanation. For example, when a corporation is insured, it may take on higher risk, showing that its insurance will pay the associated costs. Gotcha. So in this situation, Davina, you probably say that society is taking on society is bearing the costs of the risks. For example, a good example of this would be child support from the government, right? Government child support, government-based child support, right? So the risk of having a child out of wedlock is no longer there, right? Interesting food for thought here. Yes. Brandon Daniel says, I like how you're not dogmatic to either extreme. I love hearing your more nuanced, balanced perspective. Thank you very much, Brandon. I really appreciate that bit of input. Because look, like, I don't pretend to have all the answers here. I'm still figuring this shit out as well along the way. Sure, I probably have a lot more experience than some of you guys in this chat in regards to women and sexuality and, and various other concepts, but, especially with having a friend who recently converted to Islam, a lot of my assumptions are being questioned. And I like when my assumptions are questioned. I like having to... I don't like ever assuming that I am correct just because I believe I'm correct. I like to be able to test that correctness against opposing arguments. Then I'm sure that it is correct. Yeah, good point here. But have been feminism told women what they wanted to hear, not what they needed to hear. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Whoops. Yeah, exactly. Problematic. The idea was to make the guy pay with commitment instead of giving it away for free. And it was to women's benefit, absolutely. And then feminism destroyed that. Well, look, but here's the thing. Why does a woman need a man's commitment nowadays? When she can make her own income, if she's good at it, she can pull in $1 million a year off OnlyFans. Why does she need a man's commitment? She kind of doesn't. Until it maybe comes to having a kid, raising a kid. Well, maybe then you do, but by that point it's too late. Odin says, shout out to the bin chickens in the chat. Indeed. And smash that like button while you're at it. Smash the like button. Exploring Tiger Slow Dragon says, being in an emotional state makes us more susceptible to outside influence, and so we can be easily manipulated. Well, I'm assuming that you might be a woman if you're saying that. Women in general are more like susceptible to social pressure than dudes are. All right, they're more hurt. They're more like groupthink, and men are more individualistic. Yes. When I said the word tinfoil hat. Oh god, I'm not going to read this one out. I'm not reading this one out. Oh god. One Man's Way says, dude, your sex tips kick ass. I got 5 chicks on Seeking. No sash involved. 1 sex session and they keep coming back. Excellent. I'm very glad to hear it, sir. I love hearing this. I love hearing this stuff, guys. Seriously. It makes me happy knowing that you guys are benefiting from my work. Okay? So, keep up the great work, alright? If you teach them how to squirt and stuff next, alright? Nah, boy says, where my no fat brother's at. Like when my girls at my school like when girls at my school for slut shamed, it wasn't because she probably isn't loyal, but more so because she cheapened her asset. Yeah, and the idea of like girls shaming other girls for being sluts, right? Like if one, it's kind of like a well, this why calling it like a sexual marketplace is so good. It's such a perfect analogy, because when one girl is sleeping, or if one girl is in a school context, right, small environment, this is basically like analogous to what it was like being in a tribe, right? If one girl is sleeping around fucking everyone, fucking all the boys, then the dudes don't need to commit to any particular girl to get sex. That need is taken care of by this woman. So all the other girls hate her because they're like, well, motherfucker, we wanted to lock one of these dudes down and make him our boyfriend and have him commit to us, but we can't do that now because you're fucking him and all the other dudes without asking anything from them. Do you get it? So I'm glad you brought that up. Oops, where we go to? Oh, this is the key and lock analogy. Ha ha ha. Yes, problematic. What is what Odin has said. The key that opens many locks is valuable. The lock that is opened by many keys is worthless. Huh. Interesting little phrase to encapsulate that idea. Yep, we're indoctrinated by feminist society and educational institutions, and it's not until we get older and take the red pill that we open our eyes to hypergamy. Or have your eyes opened to hypergamy, rather. The sexual liberation, i.e. empowering the minorities, is also a part of the decline in the cycle of empires. Huh. Yeah, right? Didn't Rome fall apart when it became too degenerate? Isn't that what happened to Rome? It just collapsed when everyone was just running around shagging each other. Oh yeah, I remember those. Yeah, these the Islam is right about women's signs. People went fucking bonkers for those. Absolutely bonkers. That's how you know, like, the ultimate like irony, right? With sort of liberalism, especially in the United Kingdom, is like Muslims are like an impervious social class. They can't be touched by like liberals. But then you say something like that, and it triggers the fuck out of them. Oh, exactly, Simpatico. You're exactly right here. Male politicians perpetuate this system through child support, and we have to pay for access to our children. 100% correct here. Yep. Complicit in the problem. Thank you for the reminder, Marlon. Smash that like button. If you're new to the channel as well, don't forget to subscribe. We're growing every day, and it's fantastic to see so many people coming on board. And I love it when you guys are in the live chat. It really gives me something to bounce off of. And we will be. I am going to be out of the country. This country being the USA, into another country. I'm flying out next week. We've got a couple more shows scheduled. We've got Rollo Tomasi on the show on Monday of next week. He'll be one of my last episodes before I fly to Europe. And there'll be a couple of days where I won't be streaming because I'll be traveling and stuff. But then I will be in lockdown. And while I'm in lockdown, we're going to be doing a 14-day quarantine stream. 14-day streaming. Obviously, we're going live every day again. But it's 14 days of quarantine. And we're going to be talking in depth. Me and my friend Tom are going to be talking in depth about 14 lies that we've been sold since birth. And it's not just going to be about women. It's going to be about all kinds of things. All the different red pills you might need to take. Because me and my friend Tom, the gentleman whose Twitter avatar I mentioned before, he said this to me the other day. He's like, look, Sterling, you and I have had to systematically have spent the last 10 years systematically unplugging ourselves from all this bullshit. Most people have not spent that same amount of time. And so the intention is for the two of us to, in the course of 14 days, to try and unplug as many of you people as we possibly can. So tune in, that'll be fun. I missed that there's a super chat here. Project Alethea, thank you so much for this $2 super chat. You haven't asked a question, but I think I did see your questions earlier in the chat, so we did come across them. Oh, here we go. Really enjoy the content. Looking forward to more. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Ryan R says, I heard someone recently say that Islam is right about women. Oh, Islam is right about men, not women, because the men would cuck out so bad if the women got rights. They need to be restricted. If you listen to any dude who's like Islamic and red pilled, like my friend Tom or Abu American, they'll tell you that like a lot of Muslim men aren't these hyper masculine dudes that you might think. They use the religion, the structure of the religion as a crutch, and Islam right now is being rapidly penetrated by feminism. So they kind of want there's a lot of feminist Muslims on Twitter apparently, and they sort of want they want a cake and they want to eat it too, right? They sort of want all the good parts of Islam where like they're worshipped and men sort of take care of them and stuff, but they want to shirk their own responsibilities in the religion. So it's a very interesting thing that's playing out apparently. This is a good way of looking at it. Slut shaming is the women's labor union enforcing its own pay rates, right? Enforcing its own wages. Exactly what I just said, Luke. There we go. We're ahead of the times. Ah, Diego. Welcome all the way from Peru. Good to see you. Well, not all the way. I suppose we're basically on the exact same time zone, aren't we? Yeah, LA time would be the same as Peruvian time. Or Lima time. Problematic asks, whereabouts am I going in Europe? I'm going everywhere in Europe. I'll tell you that. We're driving all around. I'm going to be checking out a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. The child support thing has been compared to institutionalized slavery. Well, look, what is slavery, right? Slavery is responsibility without authority, right? If you have no authority over your kids, but you're responsible for paying for them, it's the situation you're in, right? Big likes for triggering the fuck out of liberals. I love you, Danny. Oh boy. Barry has said, hi Sterling, it's funny how Muslims, Buddhists, Hinduism, and Taoists get more respect than Christians or Catholics. Quite the double standard, if you ask me. I would completely agree with you, Barry. I 100% agree with you here. Yeah, there's something about like I don't really understand it. Like, and I see it so much in my industry. Like everyone just shitting on Christianity. and never touching Judaism or Islam. Like, when was the last time? Like, okay, there's been a little bit of hijab porn, right? But there is so much Christian, like, Catholic porn out there. Like, dudes wearing... I've done it, like, multiple times. I have a Catholic priest outfit in my wardrobe specifically because of that. There's been tons of parodying of Christian and Mormon. There's also a bit of Mormon parodies going on here in the US. But you never see any Jewish parody porn, and you very rarely see Islam parody porn. Why is that? What have they got against the Christians? What do they do so much worse than anybody else? You know? Yeah, that's... Oh my god. You just come up with... Davina, you just came up with the best name. I was wondering what we were going to call the episodes, because I wanted to name them something different. Quarren Stream. I'm writing that down right now so I don't forget it. Quarren Stream. That is a fucking brilliant name. I'm stealing that. All right. Joshua says, I'm glad I joined the Bin Chicken community. This channel is quite informative, and the host, cheeky bastard. Like and subscribe. Thank you, Joshua. Ex-Muslim here. I still get judged because I look white. Damn. That's a bit rough. You poor bastard. This couch looks like it's never been sat on. Well, this couch is a green screen for a start, but that couch in real life has indeed been sat on by many a bare ass cheek. Yes. Anyway, we've been going for a while now. In the description below, there is a link to my free guide, and I'm putting it in the chat right now as well for all you beautiful people. My new free, my free 30-page ebook, The 5 Subtle Mistakes Men Make in the Bedroom and How to Fix Them. It's completely free. Click the link, download it, check your email for my name. It'll be from Sterling Cooper. And you'll have that free ebook all for yourself. So, highly informative. I suggest you check it out. If you missed the link in the chat here, it's also in the YouTube description below. Get yourself a copy for free right there. My gift to you for supporting the channel. Now, smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. And we will be back again tomorrow with some more beautiful content for you. Project Alethea says, read the free article. Good shit for sure. Thank you for the support, sir. Abusive Uck. Just at the very end of the end, before I'm about to shut the live stream down. We're way too liberal nowadays. Women have too much freedom as is. How is it overwhelming? Well, go back on the stream and you will find this on my YouTube channel, and you'll be able to watch the rest of it and find out why that was the conclusion. Anyway, you have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow.